Well, hello. I'm here with Doug to tell you about why you should not use your phone, among other things. And so I've got a couple things here. Microsoft has been charging $20 a month for Copilot Pro, and they have discovered that nobody's willing to pay $20 a month for Copilot Pro. So now they're just going to bundle it into Microsoft Office, Microsoft 365. So I think this is what a lot of people are finding. I think everybody's attempt to actually make money off AI has pretty much fizzled so far. Although Apple now did release Apple Intelligence, and people say it's not too impressive, kind of, maybe it's all right. All these things seem a whole lot less underwhelming than the hype made them sound. This was supposed to like revolutionize the world and change everything. So far, not really. Um, but
So
yeah.
nobody has found the secret, that one secret program, right?
Yeah, the killer app. Yeah,
The killer app. Yeah, thank
there's
you.
not this reason why, boy, I couldn't have got through the day without AI. Boy, AI did something awesome for me today. I'm not getting that feeling. Neither is anybody else. Like cryptocurrency, how did cryptocurrency change your life today?
Yeah. Well, there are some people that made quite a lot of money on it and a fair amount of money.
Oh yeah, and they're expecting another big boom in the Trump administration. He's going to pro show it, of course, because they promote any kind of scam crooked thing. But
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, the next one is the big one. A few months ago, it came out that China hacked all the telcos, and
Right.
they had access to a lot of data, although they haven't yet decided exactly what they stole. But apparently, they could see who was calling who at all the major telecom providers. So now the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has told their workers to stop using cell phones. Do not use cell phones for work due to a risk from China-linked telecom intrusion. Meetings and conversations that involve non-public data should only be held on platforms like Microsoft Teams and Cisco WebEx, and not on work-issued or personal phones. So that
Hmm.
is an interesting statement. I've always thought a cell phone call was about the most secure way to communicate. It's highly encrypted and stuff, but now people are freaking out, and obviously that's not true. So things like now, I don't know about WebEx though, and Zoom and such. I don't know if they're actually got another layer of encryption. I wonder if they could get hacked too.
Well, Sam, I think what it is it's not that the phone call it's being hacked. It's like what the FBI is doing, the metadata.
Right, it's the metadata. So that's right. So a phone call leaves the pen register data, which is easily taken
Yes.
because of CALIA. This, I think, is sort of EFF argument. Since they had to make that data available to law enforcement, that means there has to be a database of all that just sitting around that's easy for people to steal.
Correct. Yeah.
And these other apps don't have CALIA, so they probably don't have a central log anywhere to steal. I guess that makes sense. And I would think using
Mhm.
Signal would be even better.
Yeah, I would think so too. And Teams and what was it? Cisco's WebEx,
Yeah.
and there are others like that. There you're going to a central server, so I don't think it's as easy to collect the metadata from that.
I imagine it isn't. And I'm also noticed we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the whole Trump team all bought new phones because of this. They got new super secure Android phones
Oh, interesting.
with
That,
running
yeah,
Green Hill software. So
yeah,
apparently
yeah.
people
Okay.
really got upset about this hack of the phone network. So
Yeah, yeah. Interesting, huh?
yeah, it's apparently a weak spot in our security.
Well, yeah, but that's why FBI is using it.
Well, yeah, and this is
So, here we go, two sides of the coin here,
yeah.
depending on how you want to use it, how the data is perceived to be used.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are getting the message that you really should be using some kind of encrypted app like Telegram or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Although not
Yeah.
Telegram is not the best, but it's probably better than just making a phone call.
Yeah. You'd have to trace the data, whatever the pattern is. But I guess, do you go to a central Telegram server?
Yeah, and Pavel Durov has recently agreed to hand over data in response to law enforcement inquiries, which he was resisting before.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so I think it's probably the same as the others now, like Signal and such. Before it was very resistant to government requests until they threatened to jail him in France, and that sort of made him change his mind about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Have you got
Okay.
tired of him just ignoring all law enforcement requests everywhere, even for
Yeah.
stuff like child porn? They said, come on, you have to honor some of these law enforcement requests, or at least answer them. Get a lawyer for crying out loud.
Yeah.
He tried
Yeah.
just ignoring them completely, and they finally got fed up with putting up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What
So,
else you got? You got another one, and share my first one with you.
okay. Yeah, the next one I thought was interesting is Claude. Anthropic's Claude, which is Amazon's AI, is now marching into U.S. military intelligence. Partnering with Palantir. And, Palantir is sort of the scary, creepy company that sells basically spy services to the U.S. government. And that's Peter Thiel, made him a pile of money. And so Palantir and AWS have been awarded Impact Level 6 certification by the Department of Defense so they can process and store classified data up to the secret level. So now they're going to integrate Claude into it so they can have an AI system to do things like analyze intelligence, which makes sense, really. You're monitoring something like all the chatter on Twitter and foreign newspapers and stuff. And that seems like a job for AI. Comb through all that junk and tell me if something important happened today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, here, let me bring up my first one here. This is
yeah.
back in the news again. This is kind of interesting. The future of AM radio in cars.
I thought that was over.
It is, however, it's resurrected itself. And the claim is, back in the, 50s, we made AM radio the civil defense. There were a couple channels. If you get a radio, AM radio, I should say, this is before FM. There were certain frequencies on the dial that radio stations were given a big bundle of money to be the civil defense channel that you listen to after the Russians or whoever attacks us.
Was it ever used for anything?
It was used to make radio stations a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but it never actually broadcast any alerts because we never got like invaded or anything, right?
No, I'm curious about that. I do recall that you had the warnings that every once in a while, periodically, maybe once or twice a year, they do a test, and
Yeah,
you'd hear a long beep,
yeah.
and this is a test of the civil defense. If this is that would have been
Now,
actual
a couple of
test.
years ago, I used to get these Amber alerts on my phone a lot. They seem to have quit, but
Yeah, I don't think that worked out so well either.
yeah.
Um, the county here would send out alerts of missing people, that have wandered away from like a care facility.
And I remember
And
they,
well, wait,
yeah,
that one,
yeah.
they were only supposed to call between 8 and maybe 8 or 9 at night, but they were calling at 6 in the morning. And sometimes you get 5, 6, 7 calls exactly the same.
I remember one like a year ago where they said this is a test of the president's ability to send an emergency message to you or something. That was stupid.
Yeah, yeah,
They keep having
yeah.
these stupid things, and yet there isn't any emergency. All I ever heard is tests.
Well, I believe what it is these are companies. There is a need to notify people of a wildfire, or something,
Sure.
earthquake, tornado, hurricane, whatever it is, right?
That would make sense. Yeah.
But we have sirens that go off, and you're in San Francisco. I'm in the East Bay. We
Yeah.
don't have them here. But ironically, about 15, 20 years ago, they removed all the civil defense sirens in the East Bay. And I knew where a couple of them were.
Yeah. I remember I used to hear one go off at like every noon on Tuesday or something in San Francisco. I don't
Right.
know if they're still doing that.
Yep. Nope. They still do it. They still do it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I talked to somebody, not only do the speakers work and broadcast the siren, but on each pole, they also have a listening device so that they can hear other sirens. So they can filter out the siren that's on the pole, but then detect that the other sirens nearby are also working at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the question is, yeah, from a government point of view, we need to protect the people. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But then the other side of this, has it ever worked?
But I think it's really not going to work now because this reminds me of what they're saying about the election. If you want to reach people, good luck. Some of them have landline
Yeah.
phones, some have cell phones. Very few of them watch TV. Most of them are watching podcasts or something, or YouTube or TikTok. How do you possibly reach everybody these days? Communication is fragmented to where I don't think you
Yeah.
could reach more than 10% of the people with any of these things.
Yeah, I think you could reach more, but you're right. And it's more social media, but the other problem you have is conspiracy theories mixed in with that.
That's true. I think this is kind of one of the things that was predicted when the internet started is instead of having like three TV stations and everybody gets everything from that, we're going to have this vast internet where people can get all sorts of sources of information.
And wasn't that the story behind cable?
Yeah, cable was
You know,
the same thing. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's absolutely happened to where now, like they're trying to figure out like, where did people get the idea to somebody vote for Trump? And they say, maybe it was the Joe Rogan podcast. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. We really don't know. I think that's probably why polls have pretty much become useless. They can't figure out how to predict anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, the polls were off on this one, weren't they?
They've been off for the last three times I listened to said, let's just declare the polling industry dead. These guys obviously have no idea what they're doing and they should just give
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Well, the polling industry, I heard an interview maybe 6 months ago, and they admitted that they can't get accurate polls in the US, especially with younger demographics.
Yeah. And I mean you can get some people to answer, but then you also have to guess how many of them are going to vote and how much to weight it by. And they're just guessing. And the only thing you can do is base it on previous elections, which are not really representative of the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It just seems like you might as well just roll dice or get a Ouija board.
Yeah. So anyway, back to AM radio.
Yeah.
This has now come up again, and this has to be AM radio stations and their last stitch effort, last gasp, saying we need AM radio to protect the citizens of the United States from foes. I don't know, from to alert them when danger is occurring.
Right.
So the automobile manufacturers have said, yes, we could do it. And the issue is, let me back up. I think I left this out. So I believe Tesla was the first one to abandon AM radio. So it's FM, Sirius, and podcasts is what
Mhm.
you get for entertainment. So so there have been some arguments going back and forth. The other EV car manufacturers, I believe, have also abandoned AM radio. So it's FM only in podcasts.
Yeah. I
AM,
don't know why everybody
yeah.
doesn't.
So what's happened is the EV manufacturers saying, well, we can do it, but there's so much electrical interference from the EV circuitry and things that are going on that there's too much static and we'd have to add in all these isolation circuits. And it works out to be about $70 a car.
Yeah.
So the question is, would you pay an extra $70 to have all this shielding so you have AM radio?
No. Who the hell would
Yeah,
who would pay for that? That's ridiculous.
I agree with you
My radio
completely.
broke like 8 years ago and I just didn't fix it. To hell with it.
And what's on radio right now, especially AM? It's sports. AM, right? AM. It's
Oh,
sports,
the only thing I would ever
religion,
the only thing I would ever listen to is NPR.
uh, but that's not AM. That's FM.
I could have been. I don't remember. I think it's a
Yeah.
92. What do I
So
know?
so the AM dial, which used to be in the 50s, 60s, right? That was where everybody got their news. You tuned in while you were sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
So it's now come down to it's religion,
Yeah.
it's sports talk, some news, some information, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's gone like the movie tone newsreels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 exactly. And I think the other is foreign language stations.
Yeah. I mean, let the 1% of people that want that pay the $70. The rest of us don't need it.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's kind of like newspapers. The era is over for AM
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
So it's this is their last stitch effort.
yeah.
And I think they're going to the Trump administration to try and force it.
Well,
Yeah.
all you have to do is bribe him and he'll agree to anything, but you have to have a lot of money to bribe him.
Yeah. And Sam, I don't know if you remember, but I told you a story. I shared a story probably 2, 3 months ago about an AM radio station that somebody stole their transmitter and they didn't know that they were off the air for a week.
That's a bad sign.
So there they were still broadcasting, but somebody went in to their transmitter shack where the antenna is,
Yeah.
stole everything, and they didn't even know it.
Your users don't complain because there's no listeners. Kind of like this podcast. Anyway, so all right.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
We've actually been getting some friendly comments lately, but anyway. All right.
All
Well,
right. What's your next story?
well, this one actually really puzzles me. Canada has thrown TikTok out of the country. They did a national security assessment and decided that TikTok is a threat to national security. And so they threw TikTok's offices out of the country,
What?
but people are still allowed to use the app. So what they said is you can only use this app as long as you're sending your data directly to China. We won't let data be handled in Canada anymore. And this seems bizarre and backwards. I mean, what the hell? Why would you throw out the offices and let people keep using the app as it goes out of your country? How is that beneficial? But that's the current Canadian position, and they've refused to take questions or explain it. They say, due to confidentiality requirements, we cannot explain it, but based on the information and evidence collected over the course of the review and on the advice of Canada's security and intelligence community, we've decided to force TikTok to close its doors in Canada.
So wait, when they talk about advice of the intelligence community,
Yeah.
um, that's an interesting statement there.
I,
And
I,
and
yeah.
this is the government that's doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. So the government says that somehow TikTok having offices in Canada is a threat to national security, but people using TikTok is not. I'm baffled.
Okay.
Like the only thing I can think is maybe if the people from China working at the TikTok office were proven to be spies or something, but I don't think that's true. It sounds like just complete stupidity on from the government. It's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, or they're hiding something else, right?
Or they just want to make a symbolic gesture to appear to have done something about it, but then they don't want to make people mad by making them abandon their TikTok. So they just do something random so they can look tough.
And and even if they did block TikTok, can't you VPN around it?
Well, sure. And I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah. I mean, I could see saying we really want to ban TikTok, but we can't because of like civil liberties or something. But anyway,
Yeah. I don't know Canadian law, and so
I don't know either. But this
yeah.
seems completely backwards. Although I have seen some comments because a lot of people are talking about fleeing America, not Trump's winning, and people say don't go to Canada because the same thing's happening up here.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. PBS, 2 months ago, I had a story about Germany and what's going on there, the election, and it really is paralleling what's going on over here.
Yeah, the AfD in
The
Germany, which is the
AfD,
Nazis,
yeah,
and in France
yeah,
it's the same thing. In Austria, all over the world, Nazis are rising.
yeah. It's interesting, really is.
Not New Zealand though, and New Zealand is looking for tech workers. That's what I'm thinking about. Anyway,
I've heard it's very nice.
I've been there. It is very
Oh,
nice.
you have?
Oh yeah, it's very peaceful and rural. It's like going to a farming country town in America.
I
Um,
see.
and so, not a lot of excitement, but peace and calm, and no guns, no nukes. They're just like a more peaceful, quieter place, which I'm getting in the mood for these days. Anyway,
Yeah, I understand. All right.
what else you got?
Well, kind of similar on this is Sam, during the election, were you getting all kinds of text messages from political, right,
Of
parties?
course, like 10 a day from both sides, from people I would never give money to, begging for money.
Yeah, and what was interesting is a lot of those were polls, but they were fake polls because at the end they asked for 10, 50, $100 to submit the poll. Well, wait a minute, you're asking for my opinion, but
Yeah.
now I have to pay you? In the past, I would get paid for that.
Yeah, I
for
haven't
my
seen that one,
opinion.
but it must all the Trump ones were mostly really enigmatic, like a secret message from Steve Bannon. It'll only be here for 5 minutes or something like that with a link. That's the one
Yeah,
I got mostly.
the sense of urgency, right?
And no information, not even a picture, just a couple lines. You have to click here and a time deadline.
Yeah, yeah. So the question is, who's making money off of those?
That's an interesting question. I assumed it's the political campaigns paying for advertising, but I really don't know. It could be
Yeah,
random.
so yeah, ultimately it is political campaigns, and I will argue, but I'm not certain that it is the actual political campaign that's sending out those messages. So you got the telephone companies. If you're on a cell phone, you're being charged for those messages if you don't have an unlimited plan, right?
I guess. I think most
So,
of the
so
plans are unlimited SMS
yeah,
these.
yeah, but let's say you are traveling and you're in Europe, you're paying 50 cents, maybe, or a dollar per text message to
I
come
wouldn't
in.
like that.
No, I know. I'm just
One thing
saying
I
that,
know is you
yeah,
can't block them. The unsubscribe does nothing. They
right.
have an infinite number of different numbers to send it from. So,
Yeah, so you can't block one number, and part of the do not call list excludes political material campaigns.
yeah.
That's one of the loopholes. And it's just kind of interesting. AT&T, Verizon, they've got to be making some money off of this.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that mail and a whole bunch of industries make all their money from political ads, just like retail makes all their money in a couple of weeks before Christmas. Other,
Yeah. Oh, Sam, that's a good point. It used to be that TV, right? Radio made a
yeah,
bundle
yeah.
when it came to campaign time. Now you know who it is. It's YouTube.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
So the money that was going towards radio, towards TV, was diverted to YouTube and social media advertising
Yeah. Well, that was Google's big thing. They took the advertising money away
dollars.
from everybody else because the ads there, you could track them and see how many people actually click, and it was more scientific.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of just broadcasting out.
At some radio station where you might broadcast out for a week and you don't even know none of it's getting there.
Or yeah, or if the transmitter is there.
That's right.
All right,
Yeah.
well, your turn, Sam.
All right. I got a couple ones
Couple
about
more.
police. The one I was surprised. San Francisco is going to enforce a new daylighting parking law, which is pretty important. You can't park within 20 feet of a crosswalk now, and they're going to ticket you for it. And I said, wow,
Wow.
that's really harsh. I mean, there's already not enough parking spaces, and that's like 3 or 4 spaces from every crosswalk. It sounds like they didn't label it. So I got so many tickets when I moved to San Francisco. I got so offended. There's so many ways to break the rules. This is yet another rule. So I thought that's important.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
I remember I would park at a meter, pay the meter, then get a ticket. There's like 3 signs saying no parking between this hours, no parking. I said, man, it's so hard to figure out if it's okay to park.
I know they should have an app for that.
They should have some simple system, but they don't. And now they got yet another rule. So that I thought that was important for everybody around here. And the
Yeah.
last
So has that gone into effect yet?
it's been in effect for a while, but the enforcement is going to start, I think, next year.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the last one I found was pretty exciting. Forensic police issued a document which was intended for only internal law enforcement, but somebody leaked it to uh, press. I think maybe The Verge. Let's see. Uh, Waiting for this thing to load. It's being slow. My DNS must be slow today. Yeah, it's Joseph Cox at I think 404. But what they found out is they seized some iPhones. And as you know, we've both done forensics. When you seize an iPhone, you connect it to an external power supply, you put it in a Faraday bag or a paint can so it can't get any external signals. And now you say, well, this phone is fine. If it was unlocked, it's going to stay unlocked, and I can image it later. Well, they grabbed it, and within 24 hours, it rebooted. And they took it back to the lab, and all the other phones it connected to rebooted. And they say apparently in the latest version of iOS, Apple has added some feature that if your phone stays disconnected from the cellular network for a period of time, it will automatically reboot. And that locks everybody out because once it reboots, you're in the complete locked state, which currently there are no tools available for law enforcement to hack in. Um, and so that's pretty serious thing for forensics to know. And I would say the immediate workaround that occurs to me is that you're going to have to image the phones you seize quickly. It's not going to be okay to let them wait over the weekend anymore.
So well, let me back up. So
Yeah,
if it loses contact
with the cell
with the
tower,
cell tower,
it apparently automatically reboots within 24 hours.
yeah,
And
I'm just thinking through this forensically.
yeah,
You could set up a fake cell tower,
oh yeah, you could,
but
but that would be really, but even that might not work depending on how it tests. But yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's really
But
extravagant. Nobody can afford that. I mean, to have like a Faraday room with a fake cell tower in it or something.
yeah, 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 yep. You're right. You could get a pineapple, but
Yeah, I mean the old rule was sticking in a paint can. You don't have to worry about it. I think anyway. Hopefully, the people will figure out exactly what happened here. But uh, but that's an
yeah,
interesting.
that's pretty interesting. And you're right. If you the longer you keep it in contact with the cell tower,
Yeah,
then the forensic data on there can't be trusted.
that's right. You might get a remote
Yeah.
wipe. It might get more SMSs. No, you really want to freeze it. And the standard way was give it some power and stick it in a paint can, and there. Now it's frozen. It'll be fine as long as the power holds on. But apparently, it's not true anymore. And what they
Yeah,
said here,
that's
which Matthew
interesting.
Green said that sounds crazy, they said it actually sends a signal to the other iPhones in the evidence room, make them reboot too, which sounds anyway. We got to get to the bottom of this. This is just one case of a few phones, but people are freaking out, of course. It would really affect law enforcement forensics quite a bit if this is true. They really need to figure out exactly what makes this happen.
Yep, yep, Sam, I'm with you on that one. This is a real interesting one. I hope we get more information on it.
Yeah.
Because you're really making me stop and think through this. And you're right, there is no, I mean, cell phone data can't be trusted anymore.
Well, cell phone data is really important. That's what most people use.
Yeah,
That's and where all the evidence is. And so, having clear procedures for the right way to gather cell phone evidence is real important. And we had it. And if the old procedure is not any good anymore, we need to learn the new one.
yeah. So I wonder, I'm sure this wouldn't work, but could you dump it in liquid nitrogen and freeze all the bits?
Oh God. Well,
But then you'd still have to wake it up to get the bits out. So
you could do chip off forensics, but you'd probably damage the chips. Well, I wouldn't do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to find more information on this.
Yeah. Have you got another one?
Nope, that's it for me today.
Okay, well, that's it for me too. So I have another one of these things on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Okay.
See you then.